And if you're just like me, you're fucking tired of the fucking goddamn commercials and this fucking goddamn Christmas bullshit, which has nothing to do with the Most High or His Son. You know, I am so fucking tired of it. And, you know, you should be in the house of mourning, straight out the gate. If you're an Israelite, you should be in the house of mourning. Because this devil, this goddamn piece of shit, Esau, Amalek, is in power. And we can't fucking wait till every last fucking one of them is fucking destroyed by Yahweh Shai and the angels. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Barakatum. World War III couldn't come any fucking sooner, man. I'm so fucking goddamn tired of this fucking place. I'm fucking sick of it. You know, there's nothing but fucking miseries here. Great miseries, right? You know? Again, I can't wait till we find out what Apostle Tahar is going to call next year. But just, man, you know, World War III is in the air and I can't fucking wait for it. You know? I know that the mark of the beast has to be mandated, and like everything else, though, you know? Ties to this world, yeah, we got to cut off all ties. You know, the only thing that really ties me to this world, aside from my wife and this truth and the brothers, but I know I'm going to be seeing my brothers real soon. Even if I get killed on this side, of course, it would be my German Shepherd. You know, I have one dog left, but I only get to see him 3 times a week for some more fucked up bullshit, this piece of shit, goddamn shithole that I fucking live in. Yeah, I'm fucking tired of fucking living in fucking shitholes too. You know, I was only tolerating it because of the fact that, okay, it was a place for my Pomeranian. But now with my Pomeranian gone, I can't even fucking stand the fucking shithole I'm in. Now I am fucking complaining, right? But I have nowhere else to fucking go. You see, I'm so fucking sick of this fucking place, right? That's just on a personal note. That's just a personal rant. But can't wait for World War III, you know? And I'm excited because 9 signs that leaders all over the globe have come down with really bad case of warfare. How close can we get to the edge without falling over, right? You know, the largest military conflict in Europe since World War II is poised to go to the next level in 2026, right? Because there ain't going to be no peace in Ukraine, even though Trump claims that there's going to be peace in Ukraine, right? Because Zelensky's supposed to meet over here and you know, always talking that bullshit, right? But like everything else, these shall hate the whore and burn it with fire. We can't fucking wait for it. War could erupt between West Asia at any moment. Oh, fuck yeah, it will. You know, because again, Turkey is now making moves against the Israeli state in Syria. You know, because like everything else, though, they know that they want to destabilize Syria while Gomer and all his troops want to rebuild Syria. So they know that those Israelis, well, now they're moving in S-400s, if you haven't caught yesterday's video. The U.S. is on the verge of starting a new war against Venezuela and China. It's absolutely furious about a brand new weapons package that just been approved for Taiwan. Dogs of war are clawing at the gate. And yet most people don't seem too concerned, right? Because they just wouldn't celebrate that fucking bullshit. You know? And you can't fucking wait till every last one of you fucking dies a horrible death if you're celebrating that fucking bullshit. Fuck all of you. Fuck the 2/3 if you haven't heard the last video. This is particularly true in the West world, and that is extremely unfortunate. We are dangerously close to a nightmare scenario, and the clock is ticking. Good. Russian President Vladimir Putin deservedly referred to the UK Minister Stammer as a little pig and openly discussed the positioning of Russian missiles with striking distance against the UK. So like everything else, though, you know, they're getting closer. And these are all the scenarios. Yeah. Couldn't think of a better place and time, man. It couldn't happen any sooner. You know? Because if this devil was allowed to continue, there wouldn't be any of us left. But now this is, you know, defending Trump, that piece of shit, right? You know, and no matter what, the king of Babylon is always going to be a fucking piece of shit anyways. You know, he's just the guy who wears a clown suit. Because the real king of Babylon is really Rothschild, right? Rothschild, Oppenheimer, you know, those behind the scenes, pulling the strings. UK teacher linked to terrorists for showing students Trump videos. You know, this is just, you know, on the bullshit right-left paradigm, right? So, you know, just showing, okay, this is how he got into power in America, you know, kind of, because he's in the UK. So he's taking it from a teacher's perspective, right? You know, he's just showing, okay, this was the election of 2024. A teacher at a school in Britain says he was linked to a terrorist for showing his students several videos of U.S. President Trump, the Telegraph reported. You know, he's just showing you what the elections look like. So he's actually teaching from a teacher's perspective. According to the paper, the man was forced to resign from Henry College in Oxfordshire after he was accused of radicalizing students and causing them emotional harm, which the teacher described as dystopian persecution. Yeah, so like everything else, though, you know, his case would eventually referred to a child protection agency, which in turn concluded that the teacher's views could be perceived as radical and told the school to report him to the Prevent, a UK government program designed to tackle terrorist radicalization in schools and elsewhere. So nonetheless, though, just for, you know, showing you a little bit of the campaign of 2024, which was a joke anyways. But you see where this is going, right? The right-left paradigm, and using that as well as anti-Semitic and all the other bullshit that they want to fucking use so they can take down your videos, so they can pretty much say that, oh, well, you know, you're a, you know, hate speech, right? We can, you know, and you're anti-Semitic, you know, etc., right? Chinese military simulates Caribbean war scenario amid Trump's gunpoint diplomacy. President Trump's Western Hemisphere defense posture, including expanded gunboat diplomacy in the Caribbean targeting Venezuela, and by extension, Cuba, is disrupting Venezuela to Asia oil flows. A U.S. foreign policy that has angered Beijing. This friction was indirectly signaled by Chinese state media on Friday. The South China Morning Post reported that China's Central Television showed red and blue enemy forces from maneuvering aircraft and warships near Cuba and Mexico, with blue units near Houston before moving into the Gulf of Mexico. So like everything else, though, you know, it's showing you a war-like scenario. You know, because like everything else, though, this eventually the others are going to come in to defend Venezuela, because this is nothing more than another seizure of oil. And like everything else, though, another scoffer was fucking taken out. Hey, this is great. Now I'll play this video in its entirety. If not, if you're still on YouTube, obviously this is the brother's channel right there. You know, hey, you know, we told you that this would be coming. You know, but you still wanted to scoff at us. You fucking got what you deserved. EU should never bow down to Trump's demands. European Commission Vice Presidency. These shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. The EU should listen to U.S. President Trump but never yield to his demands. Okay, so listen to his advice but never. See, that's like double talk. Remarks come amid growing tensions between the Trump administration and the EU, with Washington increasingly criticizing the bloc for what it describes as an excessive reliance on regulation and censorship of so-called free speech. You don't really have it. You just have to agree with everything they say. As long as you agree with everything they say, no matter what their bias is, you can still have a view, as long as it agrees with them. Right. In particular, the EU's digital rule book has become a major point of contention between Brussels and Trump. So, like everything else, though, since Trump's return to the White House earlier this year, EU-U.S. relations have come under strain due to disputes over trade, defense spending, and digital regulation. Most of all, because of the fucking goddamn tariffs, you know? Hey, you only do that to enemies. You don't do that to allies. Unless you're a fucking retard. And hey, Trump is a fucking retard. So I got another video here, right? Because like everything else, so you two-thirds, you're going to fucking pay. You're going to fucking pay because you mocked at us. Yeah, and this is called The Sinners in Zion Are Not Afraid. This is the Brothers channel if you're still watching me on YouTube. Trump makes another $9 billion bet on Russian nuclear power. Turkey just took another very large, very deliberate step deeper into Russia's energy orbit, and this time it comes with a $9 billion price tag. Ankara says that Russia has provided $9 billion in new financing with Akula power plant, Turkey's first ever nuclear facility, which is being built by Russia's state-owned Rostom on the Mediterranean coast. So like everything else, they got better reliance. So, hey, again, we've been saying for a long time, this is a prophecy passing, right? That eventually Turkey would side with Russia. The plant is now expected to come online in 2026 after multiple delays. Because got to remember, Turkey is also a NATO member. But you see them growing more towards the Russian side. And this has a lot to do with Syria. You know, because remember, Ankara, aka, well, pretty much Syria has a lot of significance because that's the Valley of Jehoshaphat, where all the nations are being gathered into that valley. You know, as the scriptures tell us, right? And so Syria has a lot to do with how Gomer and all its troops will move in to try to protect Syria, to restore Syria, for restoration and to pretty much fight against the Zionists. So this is Zionist versus Zionist because we know that Amalek is definitely Turkey and Amalek is definitely the Israeli state. So, it's just that when they the Khazarian Empire, they kind of split between those two factions. Kind of like you have Edomites in Magog and you have Edomites in Babylon. But this is World War, and like everything else, so they're all gathering into that Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is right there in Syria. And like everything else, so it's also about controlling all the oil, and this is what this, rumor of war is all about, is that they're going to launch, that pretty much Venezuela is just about to come under attack, and you got countries like China and Russia moving in to defend Venezuela. This is a world war. It's an all-out war. We can't fucking wait for it. We're tired of this fucking place.
Simmons, Professor of Journalism at Daffodil International University in Bangladesh. Welcome to the program, sir. What do you think about this U.S. conducting a missile strike to hit an ISIS position in Nigeria?
It is absolutely
they're not going after ISIS.
And the timing of this latest round
ISIS is their friend.
International relations. If we look back, what Nigeria has been doing recently has been trying to assert itself as an independent and sovereign actor that is not as an object of international relations.
Now that makes more sense than a false narrative.
So all of a sudden, you get ISIS terrorism. What a surprise. The second point is this idea to protect Christian community. And where is the Christian community? It's on the coast where the oil is located. So
their narrative is falling apart.
The next point, this bloviating and this hyperbole about Christian communities getting persecuted by Islamic radicals, I mean, this comes from the person who has welcomed the ISIS or the Al-Qaeda founder of Syria into the White House, who is absolutely massacring ethnic and religious communities in Syria, including Christian communities.
Right, so you're talking about all these coincidences, including the fact that Trump says the attack was meant to protect Christians who were victimized by terrorists in that region. But what do you think are the United States' true intentions there?
There are a couple of intentions. I would say one is for the US as a geopolitical actor, that is to prevent the rise of blocks of powers that challenge its hegemony. The second one is a vanity project for Trump, because we got the nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize coming up, which is the most compromised peace prize in the history of mankind. But as he continues to create and start wars and create tensions around the world, I think he started enough wars for a nomination for the Peace Prize.
And you said, if I heard you correctly, a vanity project. In fact, last month, Trump said Nigeria must address the security concerns regarding Christians in the country, or else he would send his military there, quote, guns a-blazing. What do you think about that statement?
Well, it shows...
Well, surprised he ain't calling them narco-terrorists.
Nice words and so forth are gone.
Oh, wait, ISIS. Yeah, that's an older boogeyman, right?
Right one. But his biggest mistake is to say things as they are, to say the quiet parts out loud. And of course, this is just an excuse to try and legitimise and to justify yet another US illegal war of aggression against a sovereign actor in international relations.
What about Nigeria? The country's government said it would in no way turn a blind eye to religious persecution. Would you expect a large-scale operation to root out extremist groups, especially in the rural parts of the country?
Well, I mean, they've been locked in an asymmetric war with different groups for decades. I don't think there's much more they can do, except I think that the US has just put this rhetoric in it, because we remember that the US starts with a proposition which is either very difficult or impossible to fulfill, which they then use to say, well, we tried the diplomatic route didn't work, so unfortunately we are compelled to go into the country, to use the expression, with guns a-blazing.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like something out of a Wild West movie, doesn't it? Nigeria has confirmed, though, it's engaged in a security operation with the United States. What do you think about that alliance, and what's the U.S. track record for eliminating terrorist groups in Africa?
You mean starting them? Alliance, because
financing
the
them?
US tends to not treat
going to Syria, Libya,
partners as equals, but yeah, the US tends to export terrorism.
Yeah, there it is.
I mean, if we look at the US so-called global war on terrorism, in the first 13, 14 years of that, I mean, the cost of war project did a calculation that terrorism increased 6,500%. So, and if we look at Osama bin Laden, the US's favourite terrorist until 9/11, so they have an abysmal track record. Terrorists have been their proxies, and we can look in Syria, we can look in Libya.
Yeah, I just said
examples that these are not in opposition; they're working together.
Yep, they're all working together. So, anytime the U.S. tries to say, "Oh, we're fighting ISIS," well, we already know that it's bullshit, right? And I think that their narrative is falling apart, because not only are we saying it, man, but everybody else knows it too. And like everything else, so it's all about Israeli assets, and everybody knows that these gutter rats are not the victims, but rather they're the villains. They're the worst of the Edomites. Israeli fighter jets launched heavy strikes against eastern Lebanon. Israeli army claimed in a statement that it struck Hezbollah training camp and weapons warehouses. Well, we know that's bullshit. They just destroyed infrastructure, you know, just for the fuck of it, because they enjoy it. They're so fucking good at it. Israeli warplanes carried out heavy airstrikes against eastern and southern Lebanon on 26th of December as part of a new escalation that saw a surge in attacks and ceasefire violations over the past few days. Multiple Israeli airstrikes targeting the outskirts of Hamel, northeastern Lebanon, and Basel in southern Lebanon, in which you can play those videos. I'm not going to play them, but warplanes bombed eastern Lebanon's Hamel several times. Israeli army claimed in a statement that bomb targets the Hezbollah terrorist organization, you know, always like they say. Yeah, sure. You know. You know, their fucking narrative is just totally falling apart. But hey, you know, now all of a sudden Saudi Arabia is joining in the fight to go against Yemen. Saudi-led coalition in Yemen vows to counter STG military actions undermining de-escalation. The Saudi-led coalition in Yemen said Saturday that it will take direct action against any military movements by Yemen's Southern Transitional Council that undermines ongoing de-escalation efforts, warning that violations threaten civilian safety and regional stability, which that's what they are there to do. Do the biddings of the Israeli state, you know, and not to mention Saudi Arabia has their interests there as well. So, hey, you know, everything's ramping up towards World War III, and we can't fucking wait for it. You know, fucking tired of this place, man. Can't reiterate that enough. Raging South Yemen proxy war meant to pave way for Israeli dominance. One's Anzala. Senior Anzala official ensured army clashes between forces loyal to Saudi-backed fugitive government, which is a proxy group, you know, kind of like Hayat al-Shem is in Syria, which is now so-called the government, right? Because there are no forces of Bashar al-Assad, you know. You may as well just say it, that Syria is a fallen state. which they want to make Yemen a fallen state, right? Militants affiliated with Southern Traditional Council are doing there is harmful to national interests. Gunmen are advancing completely United Arab Emirates engineered scheme indeed. They have become the United Arab Emirates pawns and are sowing the seeds of Yemen division. Mohammed Al-Farah, member of the Political Bureau of Ansar Allah, stated on Friday. So like everything else though, continued destabilization efforts, which is all in favor of the Israeli state to have their way in Yemen, as they do in Syria and Lebanon, right? Ambush wounds police in northern Syria. Tensions continue with SDF in Aleppo. And if you caught yesterday's video, obviously you know all hell's about to break loose in Syria, which is good because that is the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Unknown gunmen shot at Customs Police Patrol Unit in the Aleppo Governorate Friday night as tit-for-tat attacks continue between Syrian forces and the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is another proxy group of the U.S. Several members of Customs Police Patrol were injured Friday evening in ambush in northern Syria. Violence continues to rattle the country. The casualties were hospitalized in the attack to the second target of Customs Police of the Aleppo Governorate in recent weeks. Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the attack on the patrol. Okay, here's where it gets fucking hilarious, alright? This is the fucking funniest shit ever. Syrian government fears that ISIS is trying to make a comeback in the war-torn country after years of hit-and-run attacks following its territorial losses in 2019. What are you talking about? You're a fucking part of ISIS. There ain't no fucking separation. You are ISIS. You know? You get so fucking tired of that, you know, but yet at the same time, you know, hey, you know, Washington blames the 13 December attack in central Syria, which killed 2 U.S. terrorists and an American terrorist, on a lone ISIS gunman. In retaliation, U.S. forces conducted strikes targeting scores of ISIS in Syria. And like everything else, though, hey, you know, Hayat al-Sham is a part of ISIS. They will never admit that to you, but they are. Israeli forces raid Syrian town of Quneitra countryside. Oh, you know, so more seizing of territory, and the Israeli terrorists to continue to conduct, you know, raids, right? Israeli terrorists raided countryside in Syria's southern western province of Quneitra on Saturday in a new violation of the Arab country. The state-run TV channel reported that Israeli troops entered the town of al-Kashbab with 6 military vehicles accompanied by armed personnel carrier. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli army on the Syrian authorities' media report. So, like everything else, so, you know, this destabilized Syria, well, they can grab whatever the fuck they want, right? 8 killed, many wounded after Sunni jihadists bombed Alawite mosque in central Syria. Isn't that convenient? You know, war going everywhere, but all hell's breaking loose in Syria. And the devil deals the cards. And if you believe it, this devil is trying to tell you that he's there to make peace. You know, that he's a peace negotiator in Gaza, that he's a peace negotiator in Ukraine. When they shall say peace and safety, then come the sudden destruction. And we can't wait for that sudden destruction. We want every last fucking one of them destroyed, and we want to get out of here. I know the mark of the beast has to come soon, and it's coming. It's coming in the midst of all this stuff. There's been yet another tragic attack targeting Syria's religious minority of fanatical jihadists. Oh, you mean with this new Syrian government? Yeah, with the new Syrian government of al-Jilani. A bombing at a mosque located in the Syrian city of Homs during Friday, prayers killed at least 8 people and wounded 18 others, authorities said. It was an Alawite religious site that was targeted. Notably, it is the same non-Sunni sect that former Bashar al-Assad belongs to. Oh, isn't that convenient? You know, hey, they've already wiped out pretty much any of those that actually, well, they've been doing the best they can to get rid of Syria. Now, this guy here, Kavok al-Aswan, you know, Syrian analysis. Hey, it says this. In Jilani, Syria, you can get blown up for going to church. In Jilani, Syria, you can get blown up for going to the wrong mask. But sure, tell us more about stability. Yeah, and that's the way he's putting it, right? So like everything else, though, you know, we all know that, you know, a destabilized Syria is what they wanted, because Most High is doing all this. See, he's getting all of them ready for battle, you know, and we can't wait for it. We want to get out of here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to get out of here. You know, we can't wait to fucking get out of here. So, like everything else, though, you know, just going to end it here, you know, and we see that indeed, you know, Esau's coming to an end, and that means that the Most High is coming to gather his elect, and like everything else, though, we're just going to have to endure that hour of temptation. But like everything else, though, we are promised we would be kept from the hour of temptation, meaning that we won't be eager to go get a chip. Now, he's going to come at us. He's going to come at us in every way. He's going to probably separate us from our loved ones. I see that in my dreams and visions, being separated from my wife. You know, I got to be honest about it, you know, and just, you know, being sent into a prison system. But I don't take the mark of the beast. You know, now that was never said in the dreams, but nonetheless, though, I definitely see a lot of that, and just, you know, sentences, you know, pretty much casting you away, right? Casting you away from your home, you know, because you are non-compliant. I mean, that's what it is if you don't even got a real ID. You got a federal non-compliant card, which means that you are not in their system, you know, because it's a biometric ID. And it's going to get a lot worse than just the real ID. The real ID is a prelude to the mark of the MOTB that will pretty much be a way to implant everyone, right? But, like everything else, though, World War III is going to break out in the midst of it. And once he has his way, and then he's chipping everybody, eventually World War III breaks out, but you see all the preludes to that. I mean, you can see World War III around the corner. You can see it with clear eyes. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, which is Yahushua and the angels, is there no longer any wisdom in Teman? Has counsel vanished from the intelligent and prudent? Has their wisdom decayed? In other words, the narratives and all that are all falling apart, and people see him for who he is. Verse 10, I have stripped Esau bare, and I have uncovered his hiding places, and he cannot hide himself. His descendants have been destroyed along with his brothers and his neighbors, and he is no more. And that's talking about when these missiles come and wipe him out. When Yahushua destroys every last fucking one of them. You know, when his kingdom is no longer. Leave your orphans behind. I will do what is needed to keep them alive. Meaning that these sons and daughters that are born of Esau Edom, that pretty much, though, that they're going to be kept alive to serve slavery. And let those who are your widows trust and confide in me. You know, so like everything else, so in other words, they're going into captivity. The remnant of Esau Edom is going into captivity, only to be destroyed later completely. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, those who were not sentenced to drink the cup of wrath certainly drank it. And you to remain unpunished, you will not be acquitted and go unpunished. You will certainly drink from the cup of wrath and judgment. For I have sworn an oath by myself, says the Lord Yahweh, that Basra, is another term for America, will become an object of horror, a reproach, a ruin, and a curse, and all of its cities will become perpetual ruins. And that's by way of the nuclear destruction. I have heard a report from the Lord Yahweh Shai, and a messenger has been sent to the nations, saying, gather together and come against her, and rise up for the battle. For behold, Edom, I have made you small among the nations, and despised among men. In the heart of Esau Edom is Babylon the Great. Everybody fucking hates Babylon the Great. Everybody hates the Israeli state. And even all Edomites are going to be against Edomites. Esau against Esau, Amalek against Amalek. It's like what I said about Gomer and about, you know, the Israelis, right? They're all going to go to war soon. And then Yahushua is going to enter into that war and going to destroy the last of the Russians. Because, let's face it, Russia's the main weapon. used against Babylon the Great, but he's still going to destroy the other half of Edom, which is Russia. So it's all coming to a head very soon. We can't wait. We're just going to have to endure just a little bit longer. So hopefully all this has been edifying. For that I will say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Wa Abba Babal. Brakathum, Tehofolek, Shalom. Hopefully 2026 is the year we get out of this fucked up place. Shalom.